Welcome to Miss Mando, a disc golf podcast covering the disc golf world. I'm your host tonight, Sean Galbraith, and joining me as always is my friend and co-host, Galen Naidoo-Harris. Galen, how are you and what have you been up to since our last episode?
I'm good. I do have to call you on it being a little disingenuous to say joining me as always, though, because as we know, I was on a brief hiatus. I feel like I'm joining you and Robbie as always, and our dear departed friend who's not departed from this mortal plane, but departed from this podcast tonight. Robbie is off doing God knows what with God knows who. So you and I are here. We've been chatting about how we're going to try and be nice to each other for an episode, I guess, rather than just talk trash for 90 minutes straight. I'm doing good, man. Between last episode and now, played the Black Fly Fling up in South River, which was fantastic. Really enjoyed it. Was out with a couple of friends of mine, James Atkinson and Mitch Muse. We brought our spouses out, brought our furry and human children with us, and had an awesome weekend playing disc golf, hanging out, camping. And like didn't necessarily play the best disc golf. Shot like an amazing for me first round and was like, great, I haven't played in 6 weeks and I haven't played a rated tournament in like 2 months and I'm so good right now. This is awesome. And then round 2 was like awful, and rounds 3 and 4 were sort of in the middle. So the results were middling. The weekend was awesome. I just feel as you know, I stepped away from disc golf for a little bit for circumstances outside of my control. Just life was kind of fucking crazy. But I just feel good being back in the groove with my disc golf podcasting buddies and throwing some pieces of plastic again. So life's good, man. How you doing?
That's awesome. It is so good to have you back as a regular guest on the show. And it sounds like the Black Fly was a fantastic event. I know you had great weather. I think you had great weather.
Oh, it was crazy. It was like 24 to 26 all weekend. So like not too hot, and better weather than we deserved for mid-May.
I was camping near Coboconk that weekend. And yeah, it was just absolutely spectacular.
For the uninitiated, what and where is Coboconk? I've never even heard of that place.
It is sort of northeast of Lake Simcoe towards Fenelon Falls.
Okay.
That sort of area. Yeah. 20 minutes from the great disc golf course Wild Country, though I didn't have a chance to get over there to play it, unfortunately, that weekend.
Nice. How was your camping?
Camping was fantastic. Again, perfect weather. We had a great campsite up at Ballston Lake Provincial Park with some friends. And we're there with the dog and the spouse and the friends, and it was fantastic.
Love it.
Before that, I was able to get out to Barrie to play the 60 and Heiser Masters tournament at Sandy Hollow. And Sandy Hollow, super fun course to play. I love how it's two like completely different courses in one, sort of a flat plateau park course, and then just valley and forest and up and down, and super fun course. Really happy with how I played. I shot a -5 over 2 rounds, which for me, that was good enough for an 865 tournament average, which is nicely like almost 30 points above my rating. And it was on a Wednesday because the old timers, a lot of the old timers are retired, and they can actually play on a Wednesday. And I'm self-employed and I can just do it anyway. I haven't played just a Masters event before, and it was really nice. Dan Gilbert, Thomas's uncle, was one of the TDs, and they run such a fantastic event. It was absolutely super fun.
Yeah, Dan Gilbert is good people, and Sandy Hollow is a great course. I was actually, it's funny that was on a Wednesday. I think our mutual friend Tobin Isaac was at that same tournament.
He was. And
he was updating a group chat that I'm in, and I was like, what are you doing playing a tournament? It's Wednesday. What are you talking about? It's Wednesday morning. But funny enough, we're recording this on a Monday, and there is a tournament at Sandy Hollow taking place Wednesday in the evening, and I'm like, I wonder if I can get out of work like half an hour early and like drive up to Barrie. So we'll see if that comes together. Maybe I'll have a little recap for the next event.
There's another Masters tournament on Thursday this week. I'm not able to make it, but it's going to be a lot of fun. It's sort of a preview for the Top Link Open that's coming up this weekend at Sandy Hollow.
Nice. And I mean, hey, for your performance 5 down, 30 points above your rating, that's awesome. It is a challenging course. I've had many rounds above par there. I think I've snuck a couple in that are a couple of strokes under, but like you said, like 2 totally different courses, some very different holes, and it's not a course that a player that like is hyper specifically good at 1 or 2 things can do well. Like if you're good at woods golf only, you're probably going to be in trouble. If you're good at open golf only, if you're good at forehands only, backhands only,
gotta have a game only,
gotta have a complete game.
Yeah.
So love hearing them went well.
And this is MA40. Like I was never in contention. I think the winner was like minus 21 or something like that. Like, yeah. I'm happy with how I did. I'm very happy with how I did, and it was a fantastic time hanging out with good people.
Yeah, and not being in contention doesn't necessarily have to impact your weekend. I mentioned that I was at Blackfly between last episode and this episode, and just a fantastic weekend. But one of the things that sort of stuck with me was after the round, we all went to the Legion for, of course, as one does
in South River. Absolutely, you hit the Legion.
Yeah, for a raffle and awards and all that. And actually, separately, I didn't even mention. Get this on camera. Won a Latitude 64 E4 luxury bag that I'm super jacked up about.
Oh, that's a fantastic bag.
Yeah. So my buddy James, I was like, hey, can you lend me $20 for the raffle? And he was like, I can, because my phone had died camping 2 days prior and I couldn't send an e-transfer. Oh, no. And I noticed that so they were doing individual bags for each prize, and I just shoved all my tickets in that because there weren't a ton of tickets in there, and wound up taking it down. So that was awesome. That wasn't the purpose of the story. I was going to say, after the round, we were all just sort of socializing as you do at, the sort of after play or whatever event. And Justin Murphy, who I think we might touch on as we're doing our recaps later, because he played a great tournament that weekend. And my buddy Mitch and I were just chatting, and we don't all know each other super well. I know Mitch great, but I think highly of Justin. I don't know him well. I think Mitch's relationship with him is the same, and so he just sort of said, hey, I don't really know you guys the best. I don't know how you approach a weekend, but what were your goals for the weekend, and how do you feel you performed relatively to them? And it really got me thinking, because for me, my goal for that weekend was not to win MA2, to shoot 50 points above my rating, to have a dominant performance. I'm sure those things would have been great, but as I was answering that question, I said, you know what, Justin, my goals for the weekend were to have a great time hanging out with my wife and our dog and our friends, to camp, to relax, to get away. It's been a long time since I've been able to do something like this. So my goal was to have an awesome weekend. And I had an awesome weekend. And I would have liked if my disc golf performance might have been just a shade better. I shot a little bit under my rating, and I would have liked for that to be better next time. But for me, my goals for that weekend were more than realized. And my goals, honestly, as somebody that was disc golfing all weekend, had nothing to do with disc golf. So in a different way, your goals for that weekend, where you shot 30 points over your rating, might not have been, I'm going to take down this division, but I mean, if you're looking at performance, that's pretty spectacular, man. That's a really impressive showing relative to the baseline. So I love hearing that, and I think we got to be more thoughtful about what we're doing when we disc golf, because sometimes you go into it thinking a performance, and then you get locked into that. You leave at the end of a weekend that objectively was fun, where you saw friends, you had a great time, you had great cards, feeling like crap because you threw a couple of discs into trees, and that's not a good way to look at your life as amateurs, I don't think.
Absolutely. Parts of my game, I think, are starting to definitely show some improvement. This past week at White Spruce League, my partner and I, we took down the win. Or well,
nice.
We tied for first, and then we lost the playoff. But still, we cashed $35. Holla!
Let's go.
But I felt particularly my 20-foot putts, uphill and downhill, were really starting to feel good, and I'm pretty happy with that. That's something that suck at, and it's starting to feel like I'm getting my routine is starting to work, and I was making some good putts and got some compliments on it, and that was great. I was super psyched, and I'm looking forward to the next tournament.
Love that. And what is next for you? What do you got going on the disc golf calendar?
Next tournament is this weekend. I'm playing the Chains for Change in Guelph, the fundraiser for queer disc golf. I'm on.
I didn't know that was taking place this weekend. I might see if I can find some time for it.
Yeah, on Sunday, on the 2nd. It should be a great time. It's a unsanctioned doubles event. It's over at Eastview. Fantastic, super fun course. Really looking forward to it. I love those people, and that's a really fun course. My wife and I are going to play doubles together, and it's going to be a great time.
Fantastic. Yeah. I've only played one Chains for Change event, and that was at Kelso. And Andy and I have gone back and forth, Andy of Queer Disc Golf fame, just on Insta about a variety of topics and a variety of contexts for, at this point, probably a year plus. So anything that they're doing, I can support. I love to, and I maybe it was just the fact that I was sort of out of the loop for a bit, but I'm like genuinely surprised I wasn't aware that was going on this weekend. So there's a way to get out, that'd be great. But
hopefully you can jump in. I think there's currently still space available, so get a partner and jump in on that.
Hey, once we're done recording, that's the first thing I'm going to do is take a look at the website and start messaging some friends.
Let's go.
And maybe I'll quickly segue into a quick shout out of the fact that I mentioned Kelso was where I had played with Queer Disc Golf. We're launching our league soon at Kelso. I'm really excited. So I live in Milton. Kelso is an 8-minute drive from my home, and it's fantastic having a course closer to home. We had a pitch and putt at Sherwood. We still do, which is a lot of fun. It was the first place that I played after rediscovering disc golf after a 10-year hiatus. But for somebody that likes to throw a little bit longer, play a little more challenging of a course, not somewhere I go a ton these days. So the fact that there is a fantastic course, and the back nine really is beastly that we've added at Kelso that's open so close to me. Like, I'm so excited. And you had said you thought the hardest 9-hole course in the province.
Yeah, I got a preview of it with Jeff and Kara, and we walked it, and that thing is there are a couple holes that I think they'll probably get aced on opening weekend, like hole 1 and hole 4.
Yep.
But that's it.
Yeah.
The rest are friggin' tough.
Yeah.
It is a beast. It is a beast. Like, you think, it's a 9-hole course. Oh, how hard could it be? No, it's going to be really friggin' hard. For anybody who's played Albion Hills and is familiar with how hard hole 16 is, hole 5, while different than hole 16 because it doesn't have a forest running right through the middle of the fairway, it is long, it is uphill the whole way, and a left-hand turn through a tunnel the whole way.
Yeah,
it's going to be demoralizing, and I can't wait to play it. It's going to be super fun.
Oh, it's the best. And I did get to play it. I did a bit of a preview with Jeff and AJ from Conservation Halton, and oh my god, it was so much fun. So here's something I'll put out there to you, just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
For folks around our skill level, I thought I shot a really good round for me. I'm curious, what's your, you're, I think, in the 830s. I'm in the low 860s. I think of us as being a pretty similar skill level.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think would be a good round for folks that are playing AM40, AM2, middle of the pack? And this is just this isn't I'm hoping that you say something high and then my answer is low to stroke my ego. I have no frame of reference. I shot a round that I thought would be good. What do you think on that 9 is a good score for people like us that love disc golf, take it semi-seriously, but aren't competing at the highest divisions for amateurs or pros?
So I think hole 1 is definitely it's almost a must birdie.
Yeah.
Hole 4 I think is a must birdie.
Mm-hmm.
Hole 3 is far because when people see this, they're going to love it. There's trees right in front of the friggin' tee pad, and then the basket way long.
I cranked my disc into the first available.
Yeah, absolutely.
For context.
Yeah. Those trees are going to take some damage. Hole 3 uphill the whole way. Hole 5 monster. Hole 5 is like if I can escape 5, which I think it's a par 5 on this one.
It is, and I threw what Jeff said is the longest drive he had ever seen on that hole, and I took an 8. Yeah,
I think that's a very respectable score on that hole.
That's a crazy hole.
Yeah. I would say a respectable score is probably like a plus. What, like +8?
Yeah.
I
like where your head's at there. That was similar to Jeff's answer. Yeah. And so I mean, like I think it's a course where if you're coming in as an AM and you're expecting to just score, probably not going to be the case. But I don't find, and again, this is more of a preference thing, but for me, I mentioned that I don't go to the pitch and putt near my house a ton because like I don't find a lot of reward. Yeah, it sure would. Like if I throw 7 down, objectively that's a good score, but like I don't find that to be rewarding. I don't think that's helping me to get better. I don't think it's anyway. So I think that's sort of right in the right range for a good score to try to target. And we're doing this whole conversation started and I haven't even fully said it yet. We're launching a league soon, Wednesday nights at Kelso. I can't wait. This is like a rare situation where the Venn diagram of my participation in some extracurricular activities and sort of my more professional, political, whatever life are coming together. So I sit on the conservation Halton board. There's one circle, and I love disc golf, and they have come together for the first time ever. So I don't know quite what the title is going to be. They're sort of going to have me on as an ambassador for the course to help run the league on Wednesday nights, and so I can't wait. And as soon as I have more details to share, because it is going to be in the next couple of weeks that we're launching our first league night. As soon as I have more details, I can't wait to share them with folks that are watching.
I really love how Jeff and Kara have laid out that course with sort of the, like I look at it as similar to like the ski area at Glen Eaton there at Kelso, where you've got the green, the blue, and the black ruts.
Yeah.
You've got the 3-hole green little baby course to get your feet wet. What's going on here? You got the middle course. The middle 9 is sort of like the blue rated, and really nice intermediate course. And then this new 9, the black rated course, and it will make you cry a little.
It will kick ass and take names, but you're going to thank it for it after.
Yeah.
And
I can't wait to throw a couple of the holes, 6 and 8, because I think they're lefty. I'm a lefty, and I think they're lefty friendly, especially Hydroline. I want to see if I can just get around that last pole and then down the hill.
That's exactly what I did with a forehand, and if you hit it just right, it's
beautiful.
Kiss.
Just beautiful. Yeah, I'm looking forward to trying that one.
Yep, and we should probably move on at some point, but just very quickly, I just want to shout out Jeff and Kara too. Jeff and I have, similar to I was saying with Andy, like messaged for a while, had phone conversations, but I've really got to know them better, as we've sort of talked about, because they're the ones that installed this course, and I'm going to be helping to run it, sort of in the context of Kelso. Had some more conversations, and I just can't say enough good things about the way those two think about disc golf, the way they want to grow the game, the amount of effort they put in to making these courses spectacular. My goodness. So folks, you're in for a treat, and you've got Jeff and Kara to thank for it.
In particular, their conservation approach to disc golf, I think, is very commendable, and it's leading to some really spectacular courses.
Yep, could not agree more, and I can't wait to play even more of them, and can't wait to get more reps in a Kelso.
And speaking of a spectacular course, over the long weekend when you were up in South River, the beautiful Foxwood Golf and Country Club once again played host to a big A-tier tournament in Ontario, with the annual Foxwood Open. This is a USDGC and Throw Pink qualifier for the pros and an NADGT qualifying event for amateurs. It was a great weekend for the Friends of Miss Mando, with both winners for the MPO and FPO having been guests on the show. We'll talk about MA1 a little bit in a bit as well.
That's another friend of the show, I think, on the MA1 side.
Or a friend of me.
Yeah.
On the MPO side of the event, returning champion and good friend of the show, Thomas Gilbert, went back to back. He led in all 3 rounds, and he beat a solid field of 31 other players. Runners-up, Martin Hendel, one of the legends of Ontario and Canadian disc golf, and other friend of the show, Cam Zanini, weren't able to get closer than 4 shots back of Thomas. Thomas's second round was particularly strong, shooting a -10, and it was rated a 10.53. Absolutely fantastic. Over in FPO, again, friend of the show, Chantel Badinsky, also went back-to-back and took down the win. She also led in all 3 rounds, and in the end won in just a dominant fashion by 12 shots. It was the largest stroke differential of any division in the tournament, and it clearly, Foxwood, she has this course dialed in. It really works perfectly for her game. Rounding out the podium were Jennifer Smiley and Alexandra Paletto, who I know from the East End Putting League, and I think she is absolutely a strong up-and-comer. I know you were up in South River, so you didn't really get to take in too much, but any thoughts on Foxwood?
Yeah, you probably saw my thoughts portrayed in my face there. Love that 2 friends of the pod took down the wins, with a pretty stacked field. You like to think coming into events like this, your Thomas Gilberts and your Chantel Badinskys are favorites, but it's not always easy to just be the favorite and dominate the entire tournament and win. We've been around long enough, and I think you and I are fans of different sports too, and there are different arenas in life that our hat's been thrown into where being the favorite doesn't mean a whole lot. You have to execute, you have to play well, you have to play your game, and I think that's what we saw from both of them, especially with Chantel with that massive lead. Love to see it. And actually, so we mentioned friend of the pod, as she is. You and Robbie interviewed her on one of the episodes that I wasn't able to join for. So I actually hadn't met her for the first. I hadn't met her, so I met her for the first time in that course preview that I did at Kelso, and her and Chris just seemed lovely. They were shooting some content, which I can't wait to see on her channel at some point. But there aren't a ton of people in disc golf. I don't know that I could even name many that I would feel anything remotely negative about if they won, but my goodness, do I love seeing those 2 win. I couldn't imagine Chantel and Thomas as winners, for us having 2 better people up top. So love to see it.
Heavy is the head that wears the crown. And so, like you were saying, being the returning champion puts a bit of pressure on you. Yeah. You've taken it down once before, and it's gonna be tough to take it down twice. So it's absolutely fantastic to see them crush it. And who else crushed it this weekend that weekend at Foxwood? I think
nobody that I know. No. Why was there somebody that had a good result or something? I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention.
Yes, not yet interviewed on the show. Joey Voskamp tied for first with no one in particular, but unfortunately wasn't able to take down the win in a 2-hole playoff after a lightning delay. I can't find my notes to see who actually unfortunately beat him in the playoff. Do you have that handy there somewhere?
No, like you said, I don't think there's anybody notable. I looked at the tournament results and went, Joey made it to the to the playoff. That's awesome. Too bad he didn't take it down, but I didn't even notice who it was against.
I think I have it. I think I have it here. Robert H. Robert Holden, Robert Holden, I think.
Why does that name sound familiar? There's some reason why when you say Robbie Holden, there's something in my brain that's been triggered, but I don't know why. I can't place it. Is there somewhere that you know him from, or like a venue that you? Yeah, nothing for me either.
So,
okay,
moving on.
Yeah, great work, Joey, and Robbie, whoever you are, congrats, buddy.
Yeah, better luck next time, Joey.
Yeah.
Moving on, let's just briefly talk about the Black Fly Fling because you've already chatted about it.
Sure.
But this was the 5th stop on the Ontario Club Championships Provincial Qualifying Series, and as we mentioned, it was taken down up in beautiful South River. This is the 21st annual Black Fly Fling, probably one of the longest running tournaments in the province. I unfortunately haven't been able to attend the event yet. I'm hoping to maybe join in the fun next year. But I've played the course before. The Tommy Thompson course is fantastic. The TD always put on an amazing 4-round 2-day tournament. Like, that is a lot of golf.
Yeah, it was a grind.
Yeah, it was. From what I can tell, it was an absolute stellar event. In MPO, yet another friend of the show, Chris Azalins, absolutely annihilated the course and disrespected the course designer, shooting an ungodly minus 42. Minus 42.
Wow.
Good enough for a 10.29 tournament average. 15 strokes better than second place Justin Murphy. Over on FPO, it was a smaller field. There were only 2 competitors, but Jennifer Snow took it down over Lydia Fearon by 17 strokes and a nice 37 rating points above her average. Fantastic tournament.
Yeah, and what a course. It's funny. I don't know how many of our fans, our little community here that we're growing, are both fans of art and fans of disc golf, but I count myself as one. And the Tom Thompson Park was named after Tom Thompson, who is a painter who is part of a group of painters called the Group of Seven here in Canada, who did some fantastic work. And I actually have a Tom Thompson print hanging in my office at work. So getting cool to get up to a course that is named in his honor after some fantastic work that he painted up there was very cool. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I thought watching Chris dominate the field was spectacular. Again, could not happen to a better guy. Could not happen to somebody that is more dedicated to growing the sport, more dedicated to enriching the lives of disc golfers that are already playing. So it was awesome to see Chris take it down. I touched briefly on a good chat with Justin. He's also fantastic people. So seeing the top 2 on the MPO side do that well was awesome. And like you said, a smaller field, but Jen is fantastic. Her and her husband, Craig, and being the brain trust behind the goat towel. You love seeing them not just be successful on the marketing side and on the producing things side, but on the disc golfing side. And she had a scorching round. I don't know if it was round 2 or 3. That was just out of this world. That was like one of the better rounds of the 80 or 100 player field, like top 2 or 3. It was spectacular. So great to see her play well, and just a fantastic weekend. So, you love to see Chris take it down. You love to see Jen take it down, and just on balance, as I said, a spectacular weekend for me, and I think a great weekend for disc golf too.
And speaking of someone who had a great weekend of disc golf, coming up next is our feature interview with Chandler Kramer, who just finished second at the Cascade Challenge in Washington State. And we will be right back with that interview. Our featured guest tonight on Miss Mando is a Pro Tour MPO player hailing out of Lorena, Texas. He has only been a PDJ member since 2020, when he started out playing MPO. In 2022, he joined the Pro Tour full-time, grinding out 60 events in 2022 and 23, and he has already played 15 in 2024. He just got finished playing the Cascade Challenge Q Series event, where he played absolutely amazingly. I got to see his amazing forehand in action when I was a spotter on hole 9 at the MVP Open last year, when he almost got clocked by falling branches before the event was paused for wind concerns. We are so happy to have you on the show tonight, Mr. Chandler Kramer. Thank you for joining us.
What an introduction. Thank you, guys. I completely forgot about hole 9 at MVP. I actually forgot about that until you mentioned it. Yeah, no, that was great. We get to play through that entire thing, and then after we got done with our rounds, they said, "Yeah, we're gonna do a wind delay." And I was like, everyone that was on our card was like, "This is crap, man. This is so stupid."
I remember I was sort of mid fairway. What passes as a fairway on hole 9 gold.
Yep.
And I remember the size of the branch that, like, it was not small. I think it landed like just behind you.
It did. It was actually a lot closer to me than it should have been, and it definitely would have left a big bump on my head. I'm just gonna say that.
Absolutely.
Like, the cartoon bumps whenever they like the little whenever they get hit like Looney Tunes or whatever. Yeah, it would have been something like that for sure. Oh yeah, that thing was.
There were pieces falling off trees on 9 pretty much the whole day. I wasn't surprised it was surprising that they called a wind delay, because they've never done that before that I can recall.
Yeah.
But it wasn't super shocking if you were out there and like trees were falling over.
Definitely not shocking. And I think the only thing that I said at the time was, I'm surprised they didn't call it sooner.
I agree with that.
It had been ripping way before they called it, but I think enough people probably complained that they were like, okay, we should do something about this, because people, they were right. Branches were falling left and right. I think there were a couple trees that actually blew over, like the entire tree blew over.
Like half a tree on 14, I think, fell over. Like that.
Something like that.
It was the right call. It was unusual, and people are like, what? But yeah, I think it was the right call. Anyway, so that's where I definitely remember first watching you throw up hole 9 gold at Maple Hill.
That's a hard hole too. That's a fun one.
Have you heard how it's changing this year?
No, and I can't wait to.
It's going to be longer.
Oh, beautiful!
Yeah,
cool. That makes me smile.
So normally you end on that sort of little island platform.
Yeah. Yep.
Apparently we're not doing that this year. Steve is going to add a new fairway or new green across the water going towards 14. Somewhere over there.
Wow.
And so I think 2 rounds is going to use the classic layout, and then 2 rounds is this ridiculous new layout that he and Todd have come up with.
I can't wait to see it. I guess. That'll be. I guess I'll wait before I say anything, because I'm trying to picture it, and I just can't even picture it.
I can barely picture it myself.
Yeah, I guess we'll wait and see what happens when we get there. So
it's gonna be exciting.
Yeah, so I think it'll be good.
This past weekend, you tied for second place at the Cascade Challenge Q Series. It was your third round was rated at amazing 1066. This was your second highest rating of your career, behind Worlds, when you shot a scorching 1072. Okay. And it was your best finish at a Disc Golf Pro Tour event. How do you like playing these sort of tight wooded courses like Shelton Springs, and what do you think was really sort of clicking for you on this event?
So I know I started out pretty slow, because there wasn't much of a difference between. So oddly enough, because I shot 1 down, I think, on the first round, and I shot 10 down on the last round, and then the second round I shot 7 down. So the last 2 rounds are the ones that you look at and you're like, okay, you played pretty well. Mm-hmm. Round 1, I feel like I didn't even play that bad. When I teed off during round 1, it was raining, and it rained almost consistently throughout the tournament, or through that round. My bad, not the tournament, but yeah, Saturday was beautiful. It didn't rain Saturday. But during round 1, it rained pretty hard throughout that round, and the tee pads were slicker. Just things weren't really working out. And I know it rained a little bit on Sunday as well during the 10 down round, but it wasn't as heavy, and the wind was down. The first day conditions were just unideal, or non-ideal at all. Mm-hmm. And so I guess It didn't feel like there was much difference, I guess, is what I'm going to say. But as far as the tight wood holes and stuff like that, my home course is the Beast in Waco, and that back nine that they have is something that I like to play all the time. I will go out there in the off season and I'll just throw the lines just for fun. Like I might not even play some of the open holes. I'll just go back there and throw the holes over and over again. I feel a lot of times, I think I feel more comfortable throwing the tighter wood gaps because, I mean, there's a clearly defined fairway. It's you have to hit that kind of shot. So for me, it's like if I have a disc or two in the bag that I know it's going to go left, it's one or two options. And so it's like the same thing with some holes that are like 400 and it goes straight to the right. It's like, okay, I have 3 discs that can do that consistently. So it's kind of, I feel a little bit more confident in the woods at times. Also, the tighter the gaps, the more I just feel like I want to hit them. And so if I hit them correctly, then it just makes me feel more satisfied.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Shelton's got some tight gaps for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you were already sort of breaking it down round by round for us a little bit, but sort of to give some numbers to that, those feelings. So after round 1, you were tied for 33rd. Through 2, you moved all the way up to 13th, so went up 20 spots. And then you crushed it round 3, and as we said, you finished in 2nd. So just sort of looking at how you break down a tournament, whether you feel your performance on the individual round was good or not, and Sean and I were sort of talking about this broadly before, is there anything, if you look at sort of where you are in a field, that you do differently if there's a round, where you're feeling that even if the results were there, even if the throws felt they were there, the results weren't necessarily relative to the field, that you do to sort of push yourself to try to climb up in the next rounds? What was that approach, if there was, sort of a conscious effort that you made to go from 33rd all the way up to 2nd over the course of a weekend? Is there anything you did differently or any tweaks?
So I wouldn't say there was any tweaks at all, actually. I think I played, so like when I came off the course on round 1 and I had shot a 1 down and it was very clear, because I think I put something on my like Instagram story where I was like, today was a bad day, tomorrow will be better. It was one of those things where I like knew that I didn't play super well. Like I played okay because I shot under par. Under par on that course is just fine. But I knew that I played not very well compared to what I like had mentally told myself. But it was one of those things where I was so confident that I was going to do better that I mentally was telling myself, I'm like, we're going to get out there tomorrow and we're going to crush it. Like it wasn't anything physically that changed. If anything, it made me more focused a little bit mentally. And I know that like I probably took a little bit extra time, or I probably was telling myself, definitely during round 2 and round 3, hey, like truly commit. And I know that seems to be some of the issues sometimes with some of my throws. Like if I'm throwing on Anheuser, sometimes I won't commit to the power, I won't commit to the angle. So I know I was probably telling myself during round 2 and round 3, hey, go out there and just commit. I didn't exactly panic because I had played this course last year. I knew what I could do, and I played it well in practice this year as well. I didn't really panic. And so I know probably, I want to say at least in years past, specifically like my first draw on tour, if I was in a spot where I was, like I said, 33rd and I shot a round that I was kind of unhappy with, I would probably react differently and it would be a little bit more negative. But nowadays I've been there, done that kind of thing a little bit. So I know how to react, and I'm kind of just pushing past the, why didn't things go my way? And no, we're going to make things go better. We're going to make things do better instead of like, why me kind of thing.
Make your own luck.
Basically. Yeah. So probably a little more intense focus mentally, but it wasn't anything physically I think that was a tweak, because my putting has been really good as of recent. For sure. It's been really good, but, my drives are the only thing kind of holding me back. I figured out that if I can put it within like 45, even 50 feet on a good day, it's probably going in the basket. And that's kind of what happened on the rounds 2 and 3. I gave myself a birdie look on 17 of the 18 holes. And then the only holes that I did not, the only holes that I didn't give myself a birdie look on were the ones, unfortunately, that I bogeyed. So it is what it is, but I'm at a place where I'm trusting my putt. So if I can just throw my shots a little bit better off the tee, or my up shots better on par 4s, I figured out I can probably make the putt. So it's like, now that I have that confidence in me, that was also one of the bigger reasons why I probably played a little bit better during rounds 2 and 3. So I told myself, I was like, your putt's good. I was like, if you put it close, we're good. And so telling myself and reinforcing that I can do some of the things that I know I can do is what probably helped, I guess, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a putt that I can confidently rely on, so I don't know what that's like at all. If I can put it within 3 feet, my arms are long enough, so I'm good. But other than that, it's a disaster show. But I can imagine. I love that mental approach to the game. I know that. That can be tough. But that's really sometimes what separates people who finish, second, and the people who finish, 25th or whatever. And tightening up that mental game is super important.
Definitely, my mental game is definitely something I've been working on since I started touring. Because for sure, if you go back and see some of the videos, like some of the coverage I've been on, I would throw a bad shot, and you could tell that I was not only feeling it, but I was showing it too. And so nowadays, if I do throw a bad shot, I will probably still react a little bit, but it won't be near what it was. And I know that I'm fixing my mental game, and I've worked on it a lot. Because I know as long as I just keep telling myself, I'm like, it's fine, move on, then we're fine. And that's all I've been doing recently. So.
And now, I mean, this is your 3rd year on tour, right? And, you've now played probably all of the courses that are going to be on tour. You know what to expect. So it's not the first time that you've been in any of these scenarios. And with more experience comes more sort of mental resilience.
For sure.
And that's awesome to see. Gives hope to the rest of us.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
So as everyone knows, you're exclusively a forehand thrower or almost exclusively a forehand thrower. I would have loved to have seen your practice round with you and Jake Wolf, two of the most unique throwers on tour right now. It just would have been amazing. To not see a single backhand throw over 18 holes between the two of you, just be so cool.
Man, I was about to say, man, I know I do my thing with my all forehands, but man, watching Jake throw some tomahawks is truly something just insane. Oh my gosh, man. There's a hole at Glendoveer East that's a par 4, my bad. It's 910 feet, super downhill, a bunch of bunkers. You go across the little water pond thing. It's one that we've had in coverage last year. But I watched this man. He was like, all right, I guess we were chunking our whole bags basically on this hole because we were just kind of doing distance competition because it's fun. We're throwing downhill.
You got to
send it, right?
Empty the bag. Let's go.
Yeah. So he had like 60 discs with him today. So I don't think he could empty his bag. But towards the end, he was like, all right, he's like, I guess I should do my tournament play. So he takes like this new Go-S and just tomahawks it to one of just in front of one of the bunkers, and then I ranged it, and it was like 550. And I was like, dude, I was like, this is absurd. Or no, my bad, it was not 550. It was like 570. Jeez. And he was just, it's just absurd. I was like, that's absolutely insane. Oh yeah, no, watching him do what he does is just, it's a joy. It really is. It's a pleasure to see what he does.
Not to veer off topic, but when I was at MVP Open on hole 9 there, not a great tomahawk hole for him, but he throws like 100-mile-an-hour roller that it hit a tree, but I thought it was going to knock the tree down. Like that might have resulted in why that chunk of branch nearly fell on you because he loosened it, hitting the thing so hard. It's just
oh my gosh,
it's absolutely wild to see. But anyway,
speaking of rollers, I will say one thing.
Oh yeah,
I will say one thing. On hole, so it's 18, 17. I believe it's hole 16 at Glendoveer East. It's like this low ceiling par 3. It's like 418 feet. He was like, he's like, I really hate low ceilings. He's like, I think I'm gonna throw a roller. So I don't even know what the hell he threw. I have no idea what he threw. But it was this yellow disc, and he laid it down. And as soon as he released it, he goes, I think it's gonna be good. And I was like, I think it's going too straight. And so I'm at the basket putting, and then he was like, I don't know where my yellow one is. And I was like, and so he starts walking directly towards like 17's tee pad, which is like 200 feet off, I think, maybe. and his disc is like 150 feet past the basket. I'm like, dude, you just threw like a 550 foot roller. I'm like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, what is wrong with you, dude? Like, and he's like, nothing to see here, nothing to see here. And I was like, yeah, okay.
But so
Easily.
this is kind of where I'm sort of going with this question, is like for you or for a thrower like Wolf,
Yeah.
like given how are you able, given the variety of courses that we play, how are you able to adapt your forehand game to really that's such a variety of treat and open and whatever, to really sort of customize it for the types of courses and holes that we have on tour?
Yeah. It kind of just depends, because a lot of it for me personally is I have to make sure, at least I have to feel like I have a disc in my bag that can cover almost every shot shape that I'm looking for. And that doesn't really necessarily come with just like going to the left. That also covers distances as well. Like I kind of have a mid-range that can turn over if I like roll my wrist a little harder. But my putter, I have one single disc in my bag that is a punter turnover. I have a couple of fairways like that, and I have a distance driver, one single distance driver that's like that. And if I need anything to go truly left, I do have an insanely understable roller disc. So it's kind of disc selection, but also when it comes to trying to modify our games to make it work on courses that are out on tour, depending on the course, it's first off, it's challenging, but also we kind of have to look, or at least me personally, I kind of have to look at the lines from a much different place. Like, it's like, for example, because like I said, I'm throwing all forehands. It's kind of the same as like a lefty looking at it, but at sometimes it's not the same, because lefties can throw backhands and do some turnovers, so they might throw some straighter shots when I might be throwing maybe a flex or something like that. Mm-hmm. And it's definitely it's very challenging for me, but I think I do a decent job at it. But it's also, like I said, some courses are rough. Like, I'm not gonna lie, Beaver State Fling next weekend, if they do the modified 18 like they did the past years, God, that course just doesn't suit my game. With the holes that they chose, it really doesn't. When they played the Milo East and Milo West by themselves, it was better. It was a lot better, because the course, in my opinion, added some variety and added some shots that not everybody can do consistently, at least. And so I thought it played a little more fair. I'll just say that. But no, as far as like my style goes on tour, it can be very easy to make it work, but then sometimes it becomes a lot more challenging, very difficult to make it work. It kind of just depends on the course, but the way I prep for it is, like I said, finding discs that, in my opinion, that I have to cover every shot shape. So that's kind of what I try to do. And then also putting in the work. So I'll go out there and I'll throw, even if I hit the gap one time, like there's a good hole that it's a Lindavere East. It's par 3 this year. It's a hole 8. And it's basically just a backhand. It's a backhand flex with something, as long as you like turn it. For me, I'm going on a much tighter gap on the left, and I'm basically throwing, it's not a stock forehand, but it's kind of a flat shot that I have to push out and fade left. I hit the gap today once with the disc I was thinking about throwing, and I hit it. But the thing is I was like, I can't do this once. I have to do this multiple times. So it's like I have to go out and throw some discs that, even if I don't think I'm going to throw that on that hole, I have to repeat it, because I need to make sure that I can hit that more than once. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, sometimes, even if I don't hit it 100% of the time, and I hit maybe a tree or whatever the case is, it's still the best option for my game style, which sucks to say sometimes, but, and then sometimes you also just have to kind of be okay with taking par. That's just kind of how it works. I think that works with anybody, because there's some holes everyone's going to have trouble with, and so you just kind of have to accept it and move on. And that's kind of where I'm at with a couple holes, just because they don't really fit my style, no matter how hard I try.
Sure. And throwing it one way or throwing it with like a reduced bag, it kind of forces you to be thoughtful about what you're doing. For sure. I picked up disc golf for the first time like 2008, 2009, playing with my cousins out in BC. And I think they were more concerned with drinking beer than they were with playing disc golf. But as a 14-year-old, I liked the disc golf part, bought some discs, brought them home, put in my basement, and I had learned at that time forehand and backhand, and those discs sat in the basement for a decade. And when I started playing again, my forehand was there, my backhand was not there. So it was about a year after I started playing, which was also in 2020. Far more poorly than you, though, looking at my rating and my performances. Same thing. I shot exclusively forehand off the tee for with maybe like a handful of backhands for like 12 months. And it makes you think about the courses that you're playing, the shots that you're shaping, the discs that you're using a little bit more. And so, I think I've got a long way to go. I'm not a very good disc golfer. I love disc golfing, but I think I'm a little bit better than I would be just because of that sort of being forced into thinking about disc golf a little bit more because of the truncated shot selection for that first, 12, 18 months or so. So yeah, sort of some of the things you're saying about like forcing the disc into the gap, about trying to think about the shot shape. I'm like, yeah, I totally get that. And I think that's going to serve you well for sure.
Yeah, it sucks to say that sometimes, but like I have to make it work with what I got. And I know that sometimes I guess a good way to say it is I become a little bit more methodical when it comes to playing certain holes, because I know that they're going to be really a lot more trickier for me at least. And so I have to choose, what's the best option to at least for me to get a safe par, or at least get a maybe a look, but walk away with for sure par. And that's kind of what I have to do sometimes on holes that are just difficult. I wouldn't say even difficult. Some holes that just go really far left. That's a good way to say it.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I feel like I plan harder, and I feel like I said a little bit more methodical sometimes on how I play some of the holes. I think that's probably like the best way to describe it.
No, and that makes perfect sense. And so speaking of being methodical, what you're doing, we also wanted to sort of touch on last year, you having been sponsored by Lone Star and now going to an open bag this year. How are you finding that shift? Are you being more methodical with the discs that you're adding or taking out of the bag? And how are you enjoying, what you're throwing this year versus last year? Not that one has to be better than the other, but how are you finding that change?
So as far as transition wise, because I was open bag my first draw on tour, because I did have an open bag with Lone Star during my first draw on tour. It's kind of going back to that. So the transition wasn't super hard because I did keep a lot of the discs that I had. In fact, I pretty much just took my bag out and put it to the side, and I said, if I ever need to try and come back to this, we can like put it back in and then kind of swap out what needs to be changed and whatnot, which is actually what I did. So once I went back to the open bag, I pulled out all my old discs that I had, like the exact lineup, and then I kept ones that I thought I still needed, which I still have them in the bag, and then I replaced everything else that I had. And it's very, for me personally, a disc going into my bag, I'm extremely selective when it comes to what is thrown by me. Of course, bosses, like I throw a ton of bosses, and I throw a ton of apes. But there's a couple discs that I picked up that I still bag from Lone Star because I love them to death. Like I don't know if I could take them out because they kind of have that like weird slot where I haven't found a replacement for them. So like there's a couple Seguins in my bag that I don't know if there's any replacement because they're like a special run of them. So,
yep.
But I'm extremely picky when it comes to what goes in my bag, and replacing it is even worse because I a lot of times try to find something that's identical to it, but I'm also really stubborn because then I'm also really stubborn, and then I'll try and find the disc that I lost. Like dude, there's been plenty of times in the past where I've thrown it in the water, and you will find me in the water for an hour until I find that disc.
Yep.
But as far as there wasn't really one wasn't really the better one or the other as far as like this year and last year, but the transition wasn't as bad as it probably could have been, only because I did have 1 year under my belt where I was open bag. So I basically kind of had a little bit of a guide to go back to that, but then there was some stuff that I had thrown previously that was in my bag that I wouldn't say outgrew, but some stuff that was flipping a little harder than it could have. So then I had to actually go and replace that. And then that's where the replacement came in. But once again, extremely selective on that as far as what to swap that out with. So.
Yeah, I absolutely adore hearing you say throw bosses and apes because I feel like I'm on a bit of an island. I bag Blizzard bosses and Blizzard apes, and those are my furthest throwing discs. I can still throw forehand further than backhand, and a Blizzard Boss or Ape at like 156. I'm like, let me crank that out there as far as I possibly can. I just love the shot shape and the familiarity. Like I've had a Blizzard Boss or a Blizzard disc in general. I've gone back and forth between Apes. I had Destroyers for a while. Like since I picked up disc golf, and there's nothing that does what those discs do for me. So
yeah,
love.
And I say I'm pretty biased for sure because when I was first getting into disc golf, my first ever disc was an orange Champion Boss with regular black stamp on it, like stock stamp, regular orange stamp.
Well-known beginner disc. Everybody bags.
Well-known
yeah,
beginner disc.
perfect.
Yeah.
Noodle arm disc. Everybody knows this.
So I'm pretty biased on that, which is probably why I like bosses so much. But that's what I learned with, and that's why I guess I figured out. I was like, if I can get this thing to fly far, I was like, we could probably figure out how to throw some other discs. Okay,
you did.
At the time, I was so confused. Yeah, pretty much. I was so confused because I was like, it's not going anywhere. And I was like, what happens if we do this? And I'd like do that and fly further. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, what if I really throw it? And then I would throw it and it would go further. And I'm like, oh, I get it now, kind of. But yeah, that's probably why I have such a strong attachment, is because it was my first ever disc that I ever had. And so I kind of know when I find a good one, at least when I find one that really, really feels good, but also flies better. I know, and I want to hold on to it as much as I can. And so that's kind of why, like I said, I bag 7 bosses right now.
I absolutely love that.
3 of them are Germs Tour Series, the Champ Halo ones.
Yeah.
Like 3 of them.
Oh, those fly
great.
unreal.
Oh yeah, they're beefy. They're great. But like I bag 7 bosses right now. Like I'm very biased, but that's also, like I said, because I think since it was my first one I ever used, that I was like, I got to keep this forever. But I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I mean, the first discs that I broke big barriers with, like the first disc I ever threw 300 was a Thought Space Mantra, and I've had one in my bag ever since. The first disc I ever threw 400 was an Innova Blizzard Boss, and that specific boss is still in my bag, and it's been my captain for a while. So it's not going anywhere. Just sort of more broadly, I mean, I like that you're so thoughtful about what you add and take away. Anything new to the bag this year? I mean, you mentioned sort of going back to an open bag that features some Lone Star and having that been a feature your first year. But anything that you've added that's brand new. I know Sean was mentioning that he'd seen you're in the bag and saw some discs that he wasn't expecting, like a TL3. I don't know whether that specific one is a new one or an old one, but anything that you've added this year or that you've added back this year? Yeah.
So I can actually go through my entire bag because I know it offhand. I bag a lot of drivers, for the record. Like that's my entire, the actual portion. The actual portion that has all the discs in it, they're all drivers. There's not a single mid or putter in there. So pretty much I have in the top slot, I have 3 of the Halo bosses, and they're all new this year. They're not something that I had previously. They're the Champ Halo ones, and then I have a Seguin that's a dyed Seguin for my sponsor, Sick Custom Disc Dyes. He's based out of Vegas. It's a good disc. I call it my water disc because like I know it's gonna fly, but it's one of the discs that if I ever do throw in the water, I am okay with it because I have a backup for that one. And then in the actual main slot, I have that's also a new disc though that I have this year. Like I haven't had that in the past. And then I also have my green Seguin from last year, and then I also have a light blue one that's brand new. Well, at this point, it's not really brand new, but it's brand new as about a month ago. I decided to put it in the bag because it's a special run where if you ever see a Seguin that says 13502, let me know because I'll probably buy it from you. It's a very special run of them. They're beefier than the normal run of them, but I bag those 2. I bag 4 champ bosses that are, none of them are new, but that's a lie. One of them's new, and I got it at Dick's Sporting Goods. It's a Yin Yang tie-dye one.
That one looks so cool.
I used to throw only eye-dye champ bosses because they were the more overstable ones, but nowadays I don't think that's quite right. But that disc is brand new. I have 3 apes in the bag. They're all champ plastic. And then one of them actually is new this year. It's green. I actually had to buy that one because I had to get a brand new ape because one of the ones I had that was previously really overstable is 2 beat in now, so I had to get a replacement for it. And I actually have had the green one that's in my bag now. I've had that for a while, but I never threw it because I had the ones in my bag that were just really good. So I was like, and I remember that had been sitting on there for probably months at this point. And so I tested it out and it was good. So that's technically new. I have 3 maxes in the bag. 2 of them are, well, okay. I have 2 maxes in the bag, and one's a Sabo, whichever one you want to say. Both of the Sabo and one of the maxes are very much used. I mean, extremely used. They're beat to crap. I'm not gonna lie. And then the Champ Max that I have a Champ Max that's board flat. I got it from a guy in Texas. He sold it to me, and that thing is insanely overstable. and when I got it, it was brand new. So that technically is a brand new disc that's in my bag. I don't have. I have my tilt. I still bag the baseline tilt. It's
probably the only person on tour who bags a tilt.
I don't know. If someone bags one, they probably bag like the meta tilt by chance.
True.
Because well, I have the baseline one that's all dented and ugly looking because it's hit a few different trees and or metal posts.
Well, it's important to have an understable tilt, you know.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I actually, fun fact, I think it actually made it more overstable the more beat up it is. I'm not even kidding. Like, I think it's more overstable.
That's wild.
But tilt, and then I got
that's a scary thought.
Oh, it's dumb. I threw it on so for reference, I threw my Berg as hard as I could on the downhill par 4 today or whatever when we were doing the distance comp thing. And then I threw my tilt as a joke, and my tilt did not go as far as my Berg.
Amazing.
I was like, Bergs aren't supposed to go anywhere. Like, this went nowhere. Cool.
That's the whole point of a Berg, is it's like a brick.
Pretty much, yeah.
So the Berg must be a new addition to the bag.
The Berg is a new addition. It's not a new disc because it's one that I had on my rack for a while, and I decided to bring it with me on tour because I was like, I eventually was going to try it out, and I didn't think I was going to like it as much as I did. But here we are.
Bird Gang represent.
Bird Gang represent. Because I had a hard time trying to figure out what it was going to do at first, and then I remember one day I was just like, we're going to rip this as hard as we can flat and see what happens. And it didn't turn. It didn't fade. It went like 250 feet and just went dead straight down. And I was like, okay. I was like, I can probably do that. So,
and when it hits the ground, it does nothing. It just sits and grips.
Exactly. So technically that is a new addition. Splice is still the same in my bag. So tilt, splice, same in the bag. The ginger is technically a new addition in my bag as well because Clash. Mm-hmm. I used to throw a Champ Thunderbird for that slot, and I still have my Thunderbird, but mine is 2 beat in. And then whenever I tested out the ginger from Clash, it was what I wanted. There was like one Champ Thunderbird that I had a long time ago that was like pretty overstable for a Thunderbird, and that ginger was like the slot for it. And I was like, okay, cool. So that's in the bag. Dos Ex is still the same, and then TL3, Guadalupe, Valkyrie, and Crank SS are all the same as well. As far as new additions for mid-ranges go, since I'm with AGL, I like the Baobab and the Beach.
The Baobab's a wild disc.
I love the Baobab. It's fun. It's so fun to throw that disc. It doesn't really go anywhere.
No.
But that's the whole point of it. It's not meant to.
Nope. It is violently over. It is allergic to flight.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I love the fact that mine's like starting to get beat in to the point where it's like starting to kind of warp a little bit on top. I can actually get it to go like decently far. Like I figured out I can probably push it out to like 220, 225.
That is really far for
and that was and that's also when I throw it on like an extreme amount of anti. But
this is so overstable.
There's been a ton of times this season so far where if I've been throwing into like a headwind and I need something like a approach shot that I know is not going to turn or budge in the wind. Mm-hmm. And that has quite literally been my go-to for any kind of wind situation because it just doesn't know, like it can't do anything except ignore the wind. Mm-hmm. Like it just goes right through it. It's great.
Yeah. And there is no wind on this planet that will turn over that disc.
Nope. There really isn't.
I think there's an ad there, Sean, with the like Baobab, like allergic to flight,
with a tornado in the background. Or something like that.
Yeah,
something like that.
That's why I love it though, and that's why I was asking. Like, I actually asked the AGL guys. I was like, "Can I have this as a tour series?" And so I have a tour series Baobab now. Yeah, it's great.
Is amazing.
That's like my go-to. Like, if I need something to fight the wind, or to be honest with you, depending on the situation, I just need something overstable within a certain range. I want to stay within like 150 feet. That's probably my go-to because I don't. There's nothing else better for it right now for my game. Like I've thrown it enough and I've worked it in enough where it's like I know what it's going to do. So that's a new addition to the bag. The beach is a new addition as well. I used to throw I used to throw a walker. I used to throw a walker from Lone Star, and then my most overstable walker that I had got to the point where it was still overstable, but something about it wasn't quite flying right. And I remember during the test box that AGL sent me, that Josh sent me, the owner, there was this glow beach. Crap, not Alpine, but it's the other one. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. Woodland, I believe. Glow Woodland plastic. And it felt really good in the hand. And I remember the numbers were like 5203. And I was like, okay. I was like, this should be like kind of overstable. Mm-hmm. But I was like feeling it in my hand. I was like, this thing feels beef. And so I threw it on I threw it flat. And like basically out of my hand, I want to say like already was on hyzer. And so I was like, this is really good. I was like, hold on. I was like, let's throw this again. So then I threw it again and it did the same thing. I really flexed it on Annie and I got it to go like maybe 300 feet. And I was like, this is amazing. So that's a new addition and it's been my go-to overstable mid-range right now. I throw that disc a lot. It's getting to the point where it's flying like a little straighter. And by a little straighter, meaning I can actually push it past 300 at this point. But it's my go-to, but it's a new disc in this year for sure. And I think I have a backup. No, I do have a backup for sure. Another addition that's brand new, it's the last one that I can think of that's brand new, is my Stokely Discs Cardinal. And
I've been very curious about those Stokely discs. They look very cool.
I bag 3 mids. Technically, I bag 3 mids. I kind of have one that goes as far as a mid, and it's my like really beat up Copperhead. Like this thing is literally warped as hell, but it kind of goes far. It's a woods disc, but it flies like a mid range, so I kind of like halfway include it as a mid range. But I bag 3 true mid ranges, and one's the Buzz, one's the Cardinal, and then the Beach. So the Buzz is my like straight flyer, and then if I need to, if I can like overcook it hard, it'll like turn over. The Cardinal my Beach is my like really overstable one. The Cardinal is quite literally for me the like perfect in between. It's not crazy overstable, but it's also like not flippy. If I throw this thing really, really hard and flat, it probably drifts a little bit, but it comes back pretty quick.
Pretty predictable.
Very predictable. A lot of people, I think Chandler Fry messes with one. He bags one, and I know that it took him like 2 throws with it. And I think it went in his bag. Like it's a good disc. Forehands, it's a little bit different because it's not the most torque resistant disc, but it also holds up at the same time. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's one of those things where like if you threw it once or twice, you'd be like, I think I get it. But that's a new addition to the bag. I don't throw that one a ton because it's kind of a weird slot, but I did throw that at I say I don't throw it a lot. And then a hole 3, the Shelton, the par 5, on the third shot, I threw a baby flex with it, and I basically parked the hole. So I got a birdie with it. So like I don't throw it a ton, but when I need to, I can throw it for sure. It's a good disc.
This is one of those discs like when you don't need it often, but when you do, it is the only disc that you can use.
Yeah, and there's honestly quite a few discs in my bag like that.
2 out of 2 Chandlers on tour support this disc.
Chandler approved.
More a higher percentage than doctors who think you should brush or dentists that think you should brush your teeth. So there we go. That's pretty solid.
For sure.
Changing gear a little. So you're in your van. You're on tour. How has it been? You don't have a major disc sponsor this year. How has it been sort of being on tour? You're going to Europe for a couple events. Are you mostly doing that sort of van life? Are you touring with some of your other friends to try and help manage costs? I'm sure the nice cash out this last weekend. One of your biggest payouts of your career. That certainly helps. How is it managing sort of just being a touring professional? It seems, as an outsider, it's something I'm sort of interested in.
Yeah, so van life is the way, of course we're doing it right now. I'm currently in a van. So I remember my first year on tour. It's very similar to the first year on tour, except the only difference is I think this year is I have somebody I'm touring with, because we have bunk beds. It's kind of hard to see. There's boxes in the way, but we have bunk beds in here. So
cool.
My first year on tour, and it's very similar. I rode around in my Mustang. I slept in my Mustang so that covered the hotel costs right there. The only thing I had to pay for was gas and food, and then I think that's pretty much. Oh, and then as far as like showering and stuff like that goes, the Planet Fitness membership, the black card,
Classic.
you can go to any of the Planet Fitnesses that are on tour, and there's pretty much one at every location except for DDO. Emporia doesn't have a Planet Fitness, so that takes care of the shower situation. And a lot of times, depending on the places, we can stay at the course, or we can stay. There's like a bunch of people that are doing the van life thing, so you can stay in a location or with people, so it's not like you're not by yourself, because it can be pretty scary if you're by yourself staying.
I imagine.
Like I said, in my case, staying in a Mustang by myself, like in the middle of somewhere, like it can be very scary doing that. But there's a lot of people to do the van life, so you can kind of group up with people that are staying in one area. But it's not as bad. It can be pretty expensive for sure, as far as touring goes. But if you do it a certain way, you can cut costs, but without truly cutting some of the comfort, I guess. And so, yeah, it's not too bad. The main thing, the only thing that I really focus on is paying for gas and food, since, like I said, we're sleeping in the van and stuff.
Huge.
As somebody that enjoys camping and the van life, I'm at times jealous of pro touring disc golfers living that life. So, sort of looking ahead at the Portland Open, last year you finished tied 26th with Kevin Jones, Austin Hannum, and Robert Burridge. So in pretty good company. How do you feel Glendoveer works with your game? Have you been practicing your yoga in case you have to do a split putt like you did last year? How are we feeling going into it?
I forgot about that split putt. So going into Glendoveer East, it's the same course. I think there's only one change that I would say is like major, and it was hole 8. It's not a par 4 anymore; it's a par 3. So there's that. But it's gonna play as long as I can keep it in the fairway. Because this is one of the courses. It's kind of similar to OTB in my opinion, where it is staying in bounds is one of the most important things. Because I think you can find a way to get up and down for par if you I wouldn't say shake your shot, but if you hit something early, or if you make it a decent amount down the fairway, like say less than 50% down the fairway, and you get a tree, I think staying in bounds is important, because at least you have the opportunity to still get a par. I know there are a few holes out here that if you do go out of bounds, even if it's late, it becomes extremely, almost impossible actually to get a par. So Glendoveer East is about the same. I played that one today. I want to say it lines up fairly well. Some of the holes are going to be pretty tough for me to even attack, and so I'm pretty happy taking a par, or at least just playing it a little smarter than I would normally in the past. I'm playing Glendoveer West tomorrow, and I know they've made, according to at least what they sent out, they've made a few changes, and I think they was all kind of shortening things here and there. I'm at a bit of a different mental place, and my game is physically a little bit different than it was last year. I feel like I am throwing further than I was last year. And it's definitely, I know I am. It's not even a quick question. I definitely am. But my strategy going into this tournament is going to be a little different than last year, and I think this lines up fairly well for my game, actually. Especially East. West is a tricky one. I always think West plays longer, and I think it plays harder for my game. But it's also like picking and choosing which holes to attack, because if I'm okay with taking par on some of the holes out there, like truly playing for par, then it's fine, because I have like say I want to play 3 or 4 of them for par. I still got 14 holes I can attack. And surely if I were to do that correctly, I could probably get maybe 50% of them, but 6 or 7 down on a course like on either one of these courses is going to be just fine. It's going to be really good. Because again, it's more of this is one of the courses, or both of them actually. It's not only a mental grind, but it's a physical grind because both these courses are like 11,000 feet. They're long for sure.
Yep.
But
4 rounds.
I'm actually looking forward to this weekend.
Awesome. Love it. Well, we're rooting for you from Ontario, Canada.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate you guys.
So you played a Q series last year. Do you currently have a tour card?
I do have a tour card for this year, and I think it's like top, I forget what it is. I want to say it's like top 80. So I think I'm still in the standings for a tour card next year. I mainly just played the Cascade to pick up a tournament in between because I didn't want to take a weekend off. If I'm being honest, I'd rather just play every weekend that I can.
So I looked at your schedule, and your schedule shows up to D-Glow.
Yes.
Are you going to GMC? And importantly, are you thinking of maybe stopping by the Q series that is taking place here in our neck of the woods in Ontario? Formerly the Diameter Open and now known as the Innova RIP. It is conveniently located along the driving route between D-Glow and GMC on the off weekend. So if you're looking to pick up a tournament in that off weekend, we have one available for you.
Okay. So I think the reason I will say that I appreciate that offer. Now, that being said, if it is the weekend that I'm thinking of, I think it is. If it's the weekend I'm thinking of, there is a course and a tournament that I want to get back to that I played my first year on tour, but I didn't get to play last year. And that would be Butler County Classic, North Boundary Park, that's in Pennsylvania.
Ooh.
That course is extremely wooded, and I loved it from the moment that I played it. And I didn't get to play it last year, but the signups for that I think are actually in like a day or two. And so my goal is to sign up for that one. I don't know if that's the same weekend. I think it is because I believe it's on the way to GMC like it was last year or 2 years ago, whatever. But so if that's the case, I unfortunately might have to pass on the Q series that's in Ontario, but just know I will be playing that weekend as well.
Well, bring your passport just in case. Okay. Maybe
you're incorrigible, Sean.
Hey, listen, Daryl, the TD, is a friend, and we're trying to get as many pros at this thing as possible. It's got a great sign up list so far, and there's room for one more. Just
okay.
Okay, I'll
definitely keep it in mind.
Don't worry, Sean. I'll be there. I'll register MPO. I'll get annihilated. It's going to be great.
Yeah, you don't qualify.
Don't worry.
I'll definitely keep that in mind though, because like I said, I know I'll be picking up as many tournaments. Because there's still a few that I got to sign up for. And like I said, I haven't signed up for GMC because they don't send that out until later. You have to qualify for that point standing. Same with MVP. Mm-hmm. So they're the more that I'm hopefully signing up for, including USDGC, if I can sign up and get qualified for that. But I will keep that in mind for sure. If it's not the same weekend as Butler County, I will seriously consider it.
Fantastic. So that I think that just about wraps us up. We want, again, we've already taken a lot of your time. I'm sure you must be tired from practice rounds and launching bombs off hills.
You say that, and then I'm about to go run do some cardio.
I don't do that. That's why you're a pro, and I am MA3 at best. But we really do appreciate you coming on the show with us tonight, and giving us so much of your time, and really considered and amazing answers to our largely stupid questions. But floor is yours to give a shout out to any sponsors or any recognition that you wanted to give, and how can people help support you on tour?
So, oh boy, I have a lot of sponsors. Well, I want to say first off, thank you guys for at least inviting me on and talking with me. I appreciate that a lot. So as far as sponsors goes, holy moly.
You got a list.
Okay. Yeah, I do have a list. I have it on my phone, my notes app.
We'll include them all in our show notes. So if you inadvertently miss any, don't worry, they will be included.
So I'm going to go. I have my notes app pulled up. Can you guys still see me?
This guy's a pro.
So I want to say thank you to my sponsors. Shout out to all my sponsors: Lone Star, AGL, Clash, Discology, Raise Energy Abilene, Zone, Sporting Goods, Sick Custom Disc Dies, Dry Bags, Disc Barn, and then Team Ground Down. And if you're looking for anything, any way to support me, I have Tour Series with AGL. My Tour Series Baobab is now out. If you're doing Discology, code Kramer 10% off bags. I do have 1, 2, 3, 4 shirts with Zone Sporting Goods. So it's on the website. So I have like my own little section. And then I think, Team Groundbound, CK Ground. And I think that's what I got as far as how to support me. And then, of course, you can just kind of message me and say hi and stuff. That supports me too, but in a different way.
Any hair dye sponsor?
I don't.
I notice
I've had.
You've the pure blonde has been pushed aside to return to the color. I love to see it.
The color has been returned.
Fantastic.
I was kind of torn between doing like either jet black or purple. And then I decided to do neither. And so I was like, we're just going to do blonde all year. And then I eventually was like, we'll do purple. Purple's good. So it's actually hopefully getting re-dyed within like a couple days. And if it's not getting re-dyed for Portland, it'll be re-dyed before I go to Europe for sure.
Well, and on a nice sunny day, hopefully the sun reflecting off your hair distracts your competitors. So, added bonus.
One can hope, right? One can hope.
You really sold me on the Baobab, so I might have to go and find a Tour Series edition to purchase tonight once we're done recording. So
I believe they're on the website now. I know that they released at OTB, and I think they're on the website now at AGL. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong.
I won't quote you on it, but I will check in about half an hour and maybe purchase.
Sounds good. They got all different kinds of color stamps on them, and I think I got my personal one. I'm a sucker for the rainbow stamp. I love the rainbow stamp stuff.
Yeah, me too.
So,
well, that's it for our interview with the amazing Chandler Kramer. I look forward to seeing him again in person at the MVP Open this year, and hopefully that other event in Pennsylvania or whatever doesn't happen, and he can come on up to Ontario and join us here. But until then, thank you very much again for joining us tonight on Miss Mando, and have a fantastic Portland Open and rest of your season.
Thank you. I very much appreciate you guys having me on. Thanks, Sim.
And welcome back to Miss Mando. And thank you so much to Chandler Kramer for joining us tonight and giving us so much of his time. My goodness. I'm always grateful to anybody who does, but a lot of time, a lot of great answers, a lot of engagement. I've never chatted with him in any capacity before, and seems like an awesome dude. So
I really liked the bag breakdown. I wasn't expecting a full into bag, and I loved hearing about all of the crazy molds that he's using and how he likes to use them. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and love a man that bags like, what was it, like a 10 or 11 collective bosses and apes. Man after my own heart. Love to see it. So now let us move on into some tournament recaps. So we had the OTB Open in Stockton, California, one of the more exciting tournaments to watch this year, blessed with fantastic weather, which has been, I think, a nice change from the rain, the miserable weather we've seen so far on tour this year. And in MPO, we had a lot of movement at the top of the field. No one in the top 5, which included a first place with Paul Macbeth and a rare appearance from Colton Montgomery at the end of day 1. I was still there at the end of round 2. And in round 2, we saw Calvin Heimberg come charging up to second place in classic Calvin fashion, Ezra Aderhold shooting up 47 places to third. That is nuts to do in a round. And Gavin Rathbun sitting in first at the end of that round. And at the end of the final round, we saw Calvin moving back up to first and besting Gavin by 2 strokes to win back-to-back for the first time since a couple of A-tiers in Florida in 2019. I thought Gavin played a fantastic tournament, including being at the top of the card for the first time and shooting a 1053 event average, 27 points above his rating. That is a massive, massive event. So love to see that from Gavin. But I thought the real story was over in FPO. We saw repeat Tour bridesmaid Ella Hansen finally taking down her first Elite Series win. We've talked about this a few times on the show. After so many close calls, including a second this year at chess.com and a second at last year's Deglo and Waco. After round one, she was tied for second behind Holland, then tied with Holland at the end of round two, and did not take her foot off the gas in round three, did not flinch, did not whimper, did not waver, and easily cruised to a 5-stroke lead in the end over Kat Merch. The post tap-in and champagne shower from her homies was awesome to watch and a long time coming. So some intrigue this weekend. I guess now we're looking a little bit further in the rearview mirror, but some intrigue at OTB. Let's throw over to you, Sean, for some thoughts, some stats, a little bit of a breakdown. What did you see at the OTB Open?
Calvin, the name of Calvin's game this week was Clean. Mr. Clean. He was number one in parked, number one in C1X putting, number one in shots gained tee to green. His parked rate alone was 24% for the tournament. So a quarter of his par 3 drives and approach shots over 3 rounds were tap-ins. Like, that is incredible precision. Compared to 13% at DDO, his last win, that's got to be one of the highest parked percentages on the tour this year so far. When the guy doesn't have to putt, and I was looking at his total putt distance, it was like 760 feet or something like that, and it's like way down on the list of total putt distance. But he just didn't have to putt a quarter of the time. He just has his long ass arms and just sort of drops it in the basket, no problem. So
love to see it.
That was like 24% parked. Like, that is just wild.
I don't know if I get 24% parked at the local pitch and putt.
No, I certainly don't.
At a pro tour event, that is insane.
Yeah. One of the things I really liked on the MPO side was seeing some new or some infrequently seen faces in the top 10 this week. Florida's Randon Latta, he shot a course record -13 in round 3. We had Zachary Nash and Sullivan Tipton all in the top 10. Great to see. It was nice that everybody who was in the top 5 after round 1 decided to just not show up for the subsequent 2 rounds and drop way down the leaderboard and make room for some new guns. And it was also super great that Gavin Rathbun, he continues to have a great season, and coming in second with that big 1053 average. He has to be in serious contention for picks of the week, pretty much any week. There's just so many, other players in the MPO that are challenging for that. But it was absolutely fantastic tournament from him. Over on the FPO side, Ella's game was the cleanest I think that we've ever seen, maybe from her.
So are we talking Mr. Clean and Mrs. Clean?
Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Very much Mr. and Mrs. Clean over at OTB. In 3 rounds, she had 1 OB penalty, and that was on hole 17 in the 3rd round, when it really just didn't matter. She could have gone OB a couple more times just for fun. By comparison, Kat Merch, who came in second, went OB 7 times in the tournament, and Holland Handley, who was tied with Ella coming into the final round, went OB a staggering 7 times in the 3rd round alone, and she had 8 OB strokes in the event, and in the end she lost to Ella by 8. If you don't keep it clean and inbounds, you cannot win, especially on these golf course style courses with OB everywhere. Keeping clean and inbounds is the strategy to win. And that was it. Like the rest of Ella's game was good, and solid. You know, she had 19% parked percentage, solid. It was second best in that. She was first in C1 in reg, first in C2 in reg, and first in shots gained tee to green. But really, it came down to I think her OB percentage was just minuscule compared to the rest of the field. I think last episode, I mentioned that, you know, this was a long course and it was well suited to her game. And yeah, clearly it really was.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the thing that's most impressive is not anything she did on the course physically, but on the mental side. I mean, I'm someone that has finished second a few times in my life, not always on the disc golf course, but in really important, really impactful, really meaningful ways. And when I've moved from a second to a first, whether it's on the disc golf course or elsewhere, really finding it within yourself to push through and go, I got to do that little bit better. I got to lock this down, close this out. It's not easy. And, you know, for her being all over, all around, a win of this caliber for years, but especially the last 2 seasons, to find the mental fortitude to stick with it, to push through, to take it down. Super impressed with Ella.
I mean, we all remember her heartbreaking loss at Waco last year. And no sign of that this week. She absolutely was locked in, and she wasn't giving it up for anything.
Yeah, you love to see it, and I hope this is a moment she can build off of. Somebody, you know, we were talking about this earlier with a couple of different folks, but like, I just can't imagine a better person having won. So you hope that Ella can keep that rolling, keep the good times rolling, and close a few more tournaments out this year.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And speaking of Ella and winning, we may as well go to a picks recap. And we'll start with you, Sean, who picked Ella, and she took down the win. So, you know, love to see it for Ella, hate to see it for you, but
understood.
You know, we'll average it out to be okay. You also had Ricky on the MPO side, who tied for 6th.
Not bad
performance.
Not bad. Yeah. Still haven't seen a good, a really super great performance from Ricky this year. I mean, I raised this question on a past episode as well. Can Ricky win anymore? I mean, you can't count him out, but can you count him in? I don't know. I don't know.
It's a question I couldn't have pictured myself thinking about last year around this time. So the fact that we're even bringing it up is pretty wild. I mean, you can never count that guy out, but can you count him in? It's a good question.
Yep.
Moving on to Robbie, our missing compatriot. He had Holland, who took down 3rd, and Gannon Burr, who took down 13th. So some pretty solid choices there as well.
Yeah, they were clearly garbage picks.
Yeah, they were. I said they were solid. They were solid crap.
Solidly terrible picks.
Yeah, obviously.
Congrats to you for picking Calvin as the winner, and Owen in 4th place. Absolutely solid picks there. So on average, I think you took this week down, because your second place was better than my second place. So absolutely well done. Great picks.
Well, I'm not focused on that, Sean. I'm focused on both of us beating Robbie. So let's make that a habit from here on out.
Yeah. Okay. We can work on this plan.
Yeah, we can talk more offline, as the kids say on their teams meetings at work these days. We'll figure it out. We'll hash it out. May as well get to our Pro Tour previews now. And as you're listening to this, it's going to be the first day of the 2nd Elite Plus tournament of 2024 at Glendoveer. This was recorded for us 2 days prior, so we don't know how the first round went yet. We do know, though, that Elite Plus events are 4 rounds worth 125 Pro Tour points, and this year the field is going to be playing 2 rounds at Glendoveer West and 2 rounds at Glendoveer East. Last year it came down to Aaron Gossage and Adam Hammis. Hammis sinking a monster putt to take it down. And the FPO winner last year, shocker, who might have won an FPO tournament before, pick a name out of a hat, Kristen Tatar. She's injured and she's not going to be playing those. That sort of opens up, the field for a little more interesting weekend, I guess. We saw Sai Ananda take down second last year, so we can sort of look at her as sort of like a pseudo defending champ. We haven't heard a lot from her this year, but I'm curious to see how she defends that second place, first place-ish performance in the context of a non-Kristen field. How you feeling about this, Sean? What are your predictions that you're feeling both for the course in general and for who you think is going to take it down as far as our fantasy is concerned?
I don't know if you remember last year how Aaron Gossage basically collapsed on the last hole with that putt that was like 30 feet short of the basket, and then missed his following putt, opening the door for Hamas to just sink just an absolute crusher of a putt. You gotta think that Goose wants some revenge on the course and this tournament this year again. But I mean, I don't think you can't think he's gonna win it this year, not with this competition. I mean, back again is another 10,000 plus foot course for MPO and 9,700 foot course for FPO. I looked at the caddy book. There is OB just everywhere. 16 holes on Glendoveer West have OB or hazard, and 15 holes on Glendoveer East. Yet again, it's going to come down to who can keep it in bounds and who cannot go OB 7 times, in a round. You got to keep it in bounds, man. That's what it's going to come down to again this week.
Yep. Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, 31 of 36 holes with OB or hazard. That's I don't know what those percentages are. It's got to be something close to 80%. It's going to come down to placement, consistency. Curious to see how it goes.
Mm-hmm. So let's go to picks for the Portland Open.
I guess we should let the absent Robbie go first. Since he chose first without any regard for who we might like to choose. So Robbie, who faxed in his picks or carrier pigeoned or something, I don't remember, used some old-fashioned method of communication. Robbie thinks we've got Eagle McMahon taking it down on the MPO side and Holland Hanley in FPO. And I think, did he not choose Holland at OTB as well? I think
he did.
We're just talking about this. He did. So, I mean, she took down third place, podium position, and he likes her to build off that. So I can't disregard. No,
she was.
Or do I want to use? Can't disagree with that pick.
I mean, she's always in the running. She was in the running until she completely collapsed on round 3. You have to expect that she's gonna build on that and learn from that and come back swinging.
100%.
What about Eagle McMahon? He's climbing up. He's climbing up. Was he 13th or something at OTB? He had a great tournament. Certainly his progress has been quick coming back into it. I don't know that he's quite ready to take the mantle, but I don't know. What do you think?
For me, I don't know that the sort of golf that we're talking about lines up well for Eagles' game. I mean, I wouldn't say doesn't line up well objectively, but perhaps there are players for whom it lines up better. I mean, again, if we're talking about 31 holes with OB or hazard, I think Eagle probably has, and maybe this is a bit of a hot take. I don't think it is. I think Eagle might have the highest ceiling of any touring male pro. There's a couple people in that conversation, but we have seen him when he's at his best just annihilate the competition. But we know that he's also had some issues, especially in the context of injuries that he's recovering from, with consistency at times. So he's had some spectacular finishes and some ones that you might like to run back. So, could Eagle win this tournament and make me eat my words? 100%. Objectively, do I think that pick lines up the best with this course? Maybe not.
I tend to agree, and I hope that Robbie loses yet again.
Yeah, I hope Eagle wins and Robbie loses somehow. I'm not sure how we can make that happen with this pick. But
what about you? What are your picks? Let's start with MPO.
Yeah, so I mean, we've been talking about this, and if I think of a pro who is consistent, a pro who can place shots, a pro who can deliver in almost any given situation, the first name that comes to mind for me, and a name that is still on the board right now, is Mr. Calvin Heimberg. I know that there's been a little bit of up and down in this game this season, but if I think about things
not recently,
if I think about the things that I'm looking for now, it's somebody who's hot, somebody who can perform in the ways we've been discussing tonight in the context of this course, and for me, I like Calvin's chances.
So you think Calvin's going back to back to back?
Back to back to back, baby.
Repeat.
He's going that Drake song that he was dissing somebody with years ago and adding another back to back to back. If anybody could do it, I mean, it's got to be Calvin, right?
I can't argue with that at all, because he was going to be my pick. You have stolen my pick from me, you son of a.
Hey, I can reshuffle. No. Do you want to poach? We should have like a once a season, like you can steal a pick from somebody.
Definitely not. I'm not going to waste any theoretical poach on a 3-peat. But
fair.
Solid pick.
Okay, do you want me to burn some time here? Because I was waffling between Calvin and somebody else. Like, do you need a second to figure out your backup? No, I'm not going to change my mind. I'm just saying I can burn some air time if you're trying to figure out who your bridesmaid is. Okay.
I assure you that every pick I have made this year has been improvisational and off the head with no forethought whatsoever.
Yeah, me too, buddy. Good.
So what's your FPO? Who are you liking?
On the FPO side, I
back to back for doubles.
Same thing. I was going back and forth. I'm like, this kinda is a situation where I want to see Ella build off of it.
Course.
It is a good Ella course. I feel almost guilty doing this because I've done this at different points this season with different players, but taken the two presumptive favorites when you look at just best player in the field by rating, by consistent results. And for me, this is not just a thing where I think Owen Scoggins is, the best player objectively of this current field, despite some very solid competition from very solid players on the FPO side. But talking about the characteristics that a player that wins at Glendoveer will have, I feel like it draws up really well for her game. So I like
someone's going to keep it clean and own. Yeah. Tactician.
Keeps it clean.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I feel like this has been at times a characteristic of my picks. So maybe I should start to be a little more bold so as not to make things boring for our viewers. But for me, I think the two folks whose ratings are at the top of the board, the two folks who have some really good recent results in different capacities and who might be looked at as presumptive favorites for any tournament they walk into, I got to take Calvin. I got to take Owen. And so I hope I didn't poach her off of your your list there too. Who you liking on the MPO side first, and then who you liking on FPO?
So I really am. Okay. I don't know that she's going to win, but I really want her to win. She placed 5th this past weekend, at OTB. Paige Pierce. I'm going to take Paige. I
do like that pick, Sean. I like that pick a lot.
Like Eagle, coming back from injury, moving up the leaderboard, making great progress. Her putting is incredible this season so far. Her putting is dialed.
Yep.
I don't know if she's putting better than Own or up there with Own, but her putting has been absolutely on point, including Circle 2, just draining them. So the question was, is her timing on her drive and it's maybe still a tick off, but it's not much. And I think she's comfortable here in Portland. There's going to be a lot of similarity between OTB and Glendoveer. I think she can keep it clean, and I want this to be the return of the queen. Let's lock me in for Paige Pierce.
You know what would be really fantastic, Sean, is if you look at a context in which we don't have Kristen Tatar for a little bit here.
Sure.
Unfortunate injury, falling and I don't know if it's breaking or cracking.
Broke a rib, something like that.
Yeah. Fell when there was a rib injury anyway. We had some discussions earlier this season, on our pod about, at their absolute peak, who do you like? Do you like Paige Pierce, who pulled up, a 996 when nobody was doing that? Or do you like Kristen, who finally broke the 1,000 barrier on the FPO side? And like, what an insane narrative it would be to see Paige take down a massive tournament, maybe two, before Kristen comes back and set up, a relatively healthy, peak performing Paige Pierce, Kristen Tatar showdown in 2024.
Would love it.
So just from a narrative perspective alone, I would love to see her take this down. And I've said to friends of mine for years, I think Paige Pierce at her best has the cleanest form of any disc golfer on the planet. Especially with her drives. I mean, like, that is a person who, when I'm trying to figure out what do I tweak, what do I make a little bit better,
throw like Paige.
I would be blessed to throw like Paige Pierce. I could not imagine a world in which I could throw like Paige Pierce. So always rooting for her, and I think specifically on the narrative side would be really cool to see her.
What a great story that would be.
Yeah.
So I don't know that she will, but I really want her, and so I'm going to make her my pick. Over on the MPO side, I wanted to go Gannon, but his game has been off.
It has been a little bit.
It's been, he's not dialing in those putts. I don't know if it's, he just hasn't figured out those Discmania putters yet, and he needs to get some prodigy putters and just like put a new stamp on them, or get a Sharpie and write Link or something. Wipe the stamp and close enough. It's not the first player who's ever done that, so maybe that'll help. Probably wouldn't hurt. So I'm not going to go Gannon. I'm going to go Ezra Robinson.
That was my other pick that I was going back and forth between Calvin with. I do think, in the context of us talking about high ceilings, like, Gannon has a high ceiling. But for me, looking at this course, looking the way it draws up, looking at the field, I was waffling between between Ezra and Calvin. So I love that is your pick, because now we're going to get to see, is my brain stupid or smart, and is your brain stupid or smart? Because those were our picks.
I like it. I think Ezra is just, he's right there. He's in the mix. He's 1040 rated. Amazing that of picking which of the Robinson brothers would be higher rated, at this point in the season, at the start of the season. I don't think too many people would have picked Ezra versus Isaac, but Isaac's struggling. He's on the struggle bus. But Ezra's doing great. I kind of want it for him as well, like with Paige. And I'm gonna lock in Ezra R as my pick this week. I could have also gone Ezra Aderhold, like one of the Ezras. I don't know if you give me a 2-for-1, but I think either of the Ezras could win it, and I'm going to take Robinson.
So here's a fun idea that just popped into my head. What if we give you a 2-for-1, but with a penalty? So something that's reasonable, not too crazy, but like if we can maybe figure out what the line is. Let's say if neither Ezra finishes in the top 10, you skip one of your picks for our next turn. How do you like that?
Friendly amendment. If neither Ezra's, if Ezra squared both miss the top 10, I can't pick somebody in the top 10 the following episode.
Top 10 as far as rating?
As far as ratings.
Done. I love that.
Let's do it.
So you got the Ezras.
Yep. I'll take the Ezras over the top 10.
Yeah, and I feel like I like, at minimum, one of them. I honestly like both of them to finish in the top 10. So it's pretty low risk, but I just a little fun wrinkle. Just to stay entertained.
I have no idea if there's been a tournament where they both haven't finished in the top 10. I might have to go back and look at that after the show, but I think this could be fun. I like these sort of side parlays.
Yeah, me too. I will do some research before our next show, and we'll circle back very briefly on this, both in the context of how it went, but then also like the history for the Ezra squared. I like it.
And looking ahead, speaking of interesting ways to do our picks, coming up after Portland is the Beaver State Fling, and we're long-time tour stop. We're not going to spend any time really talking about this. People who know this show, they know the event. We'll talk about it on a recap on our next episode. But the important, groundbreaking news that I'm sure most fans of disc golf and the Pro Tour already know is that the Beaver State Fling is going to be the return of the legendary 3-time world champion Nate Doss to his first, certainly his first sanctioned tournament since 2018. 2018. It's amazing. He's been running the brewery with Val. He's been doing commentary, but he hasn't been playing on the Pro Tour or even like a local C tier. Amazing. I love that he is coming back. And let's do, instead of our picks for the Fling, let's do this. Does Nate Doss cash? Does he cash at the Beaver State Fling? He hasn't played a tournament with, sort of the modern era of top level golfers. There's 112 players in the field, so he's got to make somewhere in the top 44, something like that, to cash. Do you think that he can cash? We asked our errant co-host, Mr. Robbie H., what he thinks, and he said unquestionably yes, that Nate Doss is going to cash at the Fling. What do you think?
Oh man, I've gone back and forth on this since you raised this as like an idea for us to discuss the Beaver State Fling, discuss in the context of Beaver State Fling. I have settled on I don't think he does cash, and I don't know if that's a hot take or not. But for me, choose your sport. The field of competition at almost every level of professional sport is constantly improving. We sort of talked about this earlier in past episodes, sort of some of our other sport contexts. And what sort of solidified it for me was thinking about past eras of hockey. I'm a hockey fan outside of being a disc golf fan. And if you go back 6 years and take the most dominant player or one of the most dominant players 6 years ago and plunk them in today, I think they'd be okay. But I think the sort of exponential growth that we've seen in disc golf differs from whether it's hockey, basketball, choose your sport. I think the ceiling, the bar really has been pushed higher and higher, especially in the post-pandemic reality that we're living in, with that groundswell of new players, younger players that are pushing the limits of what you can do in disc golf. Don't get me wrong. I would nothing would make me happier than seeing Nate return and crush the field, and put a really really solid performance together that we all know he's capable of. But what sort of brought it home for me is I was thinking again, if I sort of like break things down into eras, best player 6 years ago, like in the NHL. If you plunk Sidney Crosby into 2024, how's he going to play? Well, we know he's already playing pretty fantastic, and 2018 Sidney Crosby in 2024 would be spectacular. But if you go a bit further back, if you take your Mario Lemieux, not relative to the other players in the league, but just that physical dude with that set of skills, with that age, with those capabilities, and plunk him into 2024. If you took Wayne Gretzky, the greatest player of all time, who retired 25 years ago, and took him and threw him into a field in 2024, like the players are just bigger and faster and stronger and more skilled. And I don't know that we're seeing the bigger and stronger, but we're definitely seeing the faster throws. We're definitely seeing the more skilled players. We're definitely seeing the more rounded players. I mean, everybody's got a forehand, a backhand, can putt, has a short game. Not that Nate doesn't have those things, but all other things being equal, I do think the forward progression, the exponential progression of the sport is going to make it tough for him to cash. So that's where I landed, and I could look like the biggest idiot in the world, as I often do when we recap this. Where are you at, Sean?
Okay. Milo McIver, the course for MPO, is 11,344 feet long.
That's a lot of feet long, man.
Hole 2 is 1,200 feet long.
That's a lot of feet long, man.
That's a big hole. That's a lot of feet. Hole 17, 980 feet. There are 4 par 5s. Like, you can't count them out. I mean, but again, you can't count them in. I think I completely agree with you that it's I mean, the logic sound like this is the modern era, and if the field was, if he had taken 7 years off and came back in 2018, the field strength is lower. He is more in keeping with that era. Yeah. But the field is just too strong right now. And I can't imagine. I would love it as an old guy myself. I would love it for him to cash on this beast of a course. But I gotta go no. We gotta go 2-1 against Robbie, and God help us if Robbie is right. We will never hear the end of this.
We're never going to live it down if that's the case. And don't get me wrong, I would absolutely love to see it. I just, if I were a betting man, and I am, I just can't put my money on Nate cashing. I would love to see, though, if this isn't just a one-off, but if he plays a few tournaments this season, like I would love to revisit this a few tournaments down the line. Again, without us knowing how this is going to go, if you told me Nate Doss is going to play 6 tournaments this season, how does he play on tournament 6? I might take him to cash objectively without knowing how those first 5 go. So I really hope that whatever happens this weekend, it's the start of a little bit more Nate Dogg in all of our lives. And I hope that Nate Doss performs well and Robbie is somehow wrong, because that would be a great combination of events.
I looked at his tour schedule. This is the only one that he's playing.
Yeah, and to be clear, I figured this would be the only one on there for now, but I would love to see him. I mean, as far as I understand, he reached out to the TD and was like, hey, do you have spots I want to play? I would love it if there were a few more of those this season and we got to see a little bit more of them.
That would be pretty amazing. That would be pretty amazing. Also amazing, the Ontario tour schedule. Like, we have so many great events. We are well into the thick of tournament season here in Ontario. And it is amazing. We are absolutely fortunate to have so many great courses, so many great TDs, putting on so many great events. In just the next 2 weeks, we have a B tier at Sandy Hollow in Barrie, the Top Link Open. We've got the Spring Super Spin out in Eddyville. There's Chains for Change in Guelph that I'll be playing in. There's Gaps Gambit up in Sault Ste. Marie. There's the Trail Hub Open in Uxbridge. There is the fourth disc Dreammaker Open out in Southampton. That's just the next 2 weeks. Like it's amazing that you really have to you can't play all of them. You got to make some tough choices which events you're going to play, and it's really amazing that we're in that position to have that much choice. And then on the New York side of the border, a lot of our Canadian pros from Ontario, including some friends of the show, are heading down to Syracuse to play the Syracuse Open June 8 and 9. I believe it's a B tier, and they've got a nice stack of added cash that is up for grabs. And hopefully one of the Canadians can absolutely, crush it and take it down. We certainly have the talent to do so.
Yeah. So anything on your horizon here, Sean? I know you're playing Chains for Change. Are you playing Top Link as well? I think you might have mentioned that.
I'm not playing Top Link.
No.
I decided to sit that one out, and I'm doing the Chains for Change. There's an overlap, and so that it's not going to work. Right. I recently played a tournament up at Sandy Hollow, so I didn't need to play. I didn't need to play a second one so quick behind.
That's what it was. That's what was confusing me.
Yeah, but then next weekend is Dreammaker, and that is so fun.
Will you be there?
So fun. Oh, absolutely.
Me too, buddy.
Camping. You're there too.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Late edition off of the wait list. So
you got in off the wait list.
Sure did.
Fantastic. Is this your first Dreammaker?
It is. I have been at least once. I want to say twice. There have just been circumstances outside of my control. I had planned to be there, but it didn't work out. At least last year, I think even 2 years ago as well. So I have heard nothing but the best, and I look forward to getting out there and look forward to seeing you there, bud.
So are you camping on site?
I'm camping on site.
Bring earplugs because assuming you're in the back by the pond with the tent camping area.
I don't know anything about the site, so I have no idea.
You probably are if it's just a late registration, because that's where the white spruces are, and sprucers.
Sean, we have a podcast together. I don't know how well you understand the way that I hang out at tournaments. I'll be out with them. Don't you worry.
Well, then that's perfect.
I'll be bothering the rest of everybody who's in the vicinity.
You will not be bothering anyone because again, that's where white spruce hangs out.
Perfect.
Be ready for the potluck. That is the event. Like you basically go to play the tournament just to go to that potluck. It is so much fun. So much fun. And the course is great. The people are great. It's one of the best tournaments of the year. I can't wait. And I can't wait to or which division are you playing?
I believe I might have gone MA3 for this one. As you know, I have taken some time off of disc golf lately, and I want to get some reps in at a division that I'm competitive with. So
no shame playing your rating. No shame.
Yeah, I'm consistently AM2. I was taking some AM1 shots last year, and that was up and down. But I think I've gone AM3 for this one.
Great, fantastic.
I don't know. Wherever I am, I'm going to focus on, as we were talking about before with that conversation I have with Justin. My goals for the weekend: have a fantastic time. Play disc golf that I'm relatively content with. We're never fully happy, but whatever division I'm in, it's not where are you? It's how much fun are you having? And I hope the answer is going to be a lot.
The red course is super fun there. You're going to have a great time, and you're flying it blind.
Totally blind.
You're going to have a great time. It's super fun course, super fun campground. Absolutely looking forward to it.
Amazing. Absolutely. Me too. Well, anything else you want to hit, or should we
I think that's
perhaps
it.
Wrap things up?
I think let's wrap things up.
My goodness. Well, what an episode. And as you said at the start, great as always, even though for me it hasn't been as always. I've been gone for a little bit. Great, as always, to hang out with you, Sean. Thank you so much to everybody who joined us tonight. That is it for this week's episode. Last week was 007. This is 008. Episode 8 of Miss Mando. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks for joining us.